What up, everybody? Lefty here with Party Science Vlog episode 2, joined by Arthur Martiroso. Now, this is my first time meeting him. The reason I wanted to interview him was the last 2 years I've been doing events with Party Excitement, where I've been their social media person. And at this award ceremony, each time that I've been there, him and his brother have been like the stars. They've been two of the guys who have gone up that show that they're hard workers. They're willing to do what it takes to get the results, and they'll do it every single day. I mean, he's even here after hours with me from what I see. The door was locked as we got here. So I just want to say that I'm very excited to be here with him because I feel like the information I'm about to get from him is not only going to be useful for me, but for anybody who's looking to get a home, and also for people who have started from nothing and built themselves up. I think he has a great story from what his brother has also explained to me. So Arthur, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. And I'm so excited to be here, man.
Likewise.
I guess to really start off the conversation is because, real estate, that's how I met your brother. That's how I met you. How did you get into real estate? Was it something you wanted to do, or was it like, no, I was going to do something else, and then this came along?
So my brother tells the story much better than me, but my version's a little different than his. So I went to school for accounting and finance, and my dream was always to work in finance, right? Like New York City, Wall Street, stockbroker, etc. And then we ended up, I think it was me that watched a flipping show. It was like flip your house or whatever. And I was like, we should buy a house. So as we started looking to flip a house, and then we were like, we should buy our dad a house. And we started to go down that journey. We kept having bad experiences with realtor. So my brother was like, we got to get our real estate license. If they could do it, we can do it. And we'll actually care about the people we serve. We're not going to be in it. It felt like they were just trying to get a commission out of us.
Right.
And back then we weren't even qualified to buy a home. We had no business looking, but we felt like we were just a number. We were on a third realtor, right? So he was like, let's get our license. And then we ended up getting our licenses. Once I graduated school, he ended up getting a job right away at, working in real estate. And then he coaxed me in, and then, here we are. We started in 2009. Here we are 14, 15 years later, still doing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it was very much not even on the radar for you in terms of what you were going to do. You're so focused on financials and getting to New York and focusing on that avenue that this was kind of like, what are you talking about? Why would you talk to me about this when you know what I'm focused on?
My only interest in real estate was investing, flipping,
right.
And it's interesting because we are doing that today, but it took 14, 15 years to get there. Right. What we thought we would accomplish year one, it took us 15 years to accomplish. It's kind of crazy how that works.
Yeah. So he told me a little bit about the beginning, and I kind of want to ask you about it. When you got going in real estate, what was your life like at that moment? He told me a little bit about the 1-bedroom apartment. And
it was brutal. So we started in 2009, and if anybody remembers 2009, it was the economic collapse. So here I am. I graduated from college, right? I worked my butt off, and it took me 5 years. I graduated from Salem State University, 2009, bachelor's degree in accounting and finance, and the market collapsed. That's when all the banks, Lehman Brothers, was going under.
Yep.
And entering the job market at that time, it was impossible to get a job, right? Because you're competing against people with MBAs that worked at, high financial firms that just got laid off.
Right.
So David was like, he was already doing real estate. I was doing apartment rentals. And he was like, why are you doing rentals at another firm? I'm working over here. Let's just join forces, see if we can make this real estate thing work. And that's how it started, man. It was brutal in the beginning. We both had full-time jobs. We were both doing real estate also full-time. Sometimes people say I have a part-time, but it was 40 hours a week working and then 40 hours a week working in real estate or more.
Right.
It was brutal in the beginning.
I could imagine. So were you doing accountant-based work when you started real estate already? You were working at an accountant-based job?
In 2009, I was a front-end manager at Stop & Shop, and I've been at that job for 11 years at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, about 10, 11 years. And the only other thing I was doing was college. So the year I graduated college, I ended up getting, I was doing apartment rentals. I was working at Stop & Shop, and I was in school. So once school was out of the picture, it was let's make this real estate thing work.
Nice. What would you say was the motivator for you? Because in the beginning, obviously, full-time real job that pays the bills, full-time real estate job trying to get to where you are now, but still in the very beginning of like learning all your lessons. What was the motivator to keep going when you were not having the results you wanted?
Yeah. In the beginning, it was always for us money. Like we grew up super poor, right? Welfare, the whole nine. So we were always driven by ambitiously, like we wanted to make money.
Right.
And that was the driver because like we worked so hard and we knew that real estate was a great vehicle for success. A lot of people we had met, like, oh, I'm in real estate, I make money, investors or realtors or etc. So we were like, if they can do it, we can do it.
Right.
And once we set our mind on something, we said, hey, we're gonna go for this. We're going for it. Like we're doing whatever it takes because we got to win.
Right.
At all costs. In the beginning, the motivation was financial, and since then it has changed significantly, over time.
Okay. So, what was the first sale like for you? When you got that first, like, oh my God, like it happened. What was that like for you?
Yeah, so it was 15 Ralph Pateri Terrace in Watertown. You never forget your first. Right. I remember the client's name as well, which we were just talking to somebody else about real estate. It's funny. You remember your first client's name and the transaction. And back, they don't have this anymore, but I was taking desk time. So you sit at the desk and literally people call in. It doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. So I'm sitting there at desk time because we were doing everything we can. We were cold calling, desk time, whatever anybody that was remotely successful or even unsuccessful in real estate would tell us to do, we would do it. So I'm sitting there on desk time and this lady called. She was a doctor. Okay. And she's like, hey, I'm looking to sell my condo, 15 Ralph Pateri Terrace, Watertown. Will you come out and meet with me? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I don't know what I said. I butchered the whole, I had scripts in front of me. I was trying to read them. I butchered them. So then I go into my manager's office and I'm like, hey, this lady, she wants to list with me. Will you come on an appointment? And he's like, hell no. Here's the contract. This is how you fill it out. And this is the compensation that we get.
Just threw you into the fire.
Just threw me into the fire. Okay. Right? So I've been studying scripts. I've been preparing. I've been doing the listing presentation. So I'm like, I'm just going to go in there. So I go in there and I literally, it was like a kitchen calendar. We stood there the whole time. I looked at the condo and I did the consultation. And then I remember just telling her, this is the compensation that we charge. This is the fee that we charge. And then, do you want to hire me? And then I just sat there quietly for what felt like an hour. It was probably like 50 seconds. And she was like, sure, where do I sign? And I was like, no way. In my head, I was like, no way. I think I might have even not told her where to sign for like 15 seconds. I'm like, right here.
You were in shock.
Yeah, I was in shock. And then she ended up signing the agreement. We sold the condo. She was so happy, and that was my first experience, my first listing. Yeah,
that's cool, man. So Watertown.
Yeah. Watertown, yeah.
I like it. So now I would assume anytime you go in there, it's kind of like nostalgic, like coming back, like, oh, this is where it really started.
Yeah, that's where it started. That was the first listing experience. It was crazy. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now, when you were going through the welfare phase and struggling to make it and all those things, what did that first sale feel like after knowing that you had been that lifestyle for so long?
Yeah, I mean, when you're struggling financially for so long, to be honest, like that first, income or whatever sale, it doesn't do much for you because you're already so deep in debt and you're getting evicted and you're having all these issues. But the feeling of being able to solve a problem for somebody felt like what I would think in sports, like hitting a home run, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It was just like, wow, I nailed it. And you get addicted to that feeling of like signing listings. Feels like I just relate it to like sports, whenever they're like an amazing dunk if you're into basketball, a home run if you're into baseball, or a knockout if you're into the UFC.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a UFC
so it felt so good. It felt like all the work that we've put in, you could finally see, hey, this might actually pan out. This might actually work for us, and we can be successful in this business.
Nice. Okay. Now, obviously, many sales since then.
Yeah, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes sold.
Right. Nice. What does it feel like now? Like when you're going out and you're meeting with somebody, like, I would assume there's almost like a strategy behind it and how you do it now. It's almost very systematic where you're not like, hey, can you help me? And then the person's like, no, man, like, go do it yourself. Like,
Yeah.
what's the process like for you now? Like, how do you do it?
It's so different now, and it's interesting because we're so like, before you're a leader, I feel like success is all about growing yourself and personal development, and that's what you see on social media. And then once you grow, I feel like it's all about helping people. So as we grow the team, like, what some of the things that I'm most proud of is how many people we've helped not only get into the business but stay into the business. Even people that aren't with us now, they've learned the real estate business from us. So going on listing appointments with other people and helping them get the listings. So the feedback I get is like, wow, you nailed it. You're so amazing. You did such a great job, right? Like, our sister, she's newer in the business. So she just got in, right? And we've recently signed up like a $2.2 million listing for her, right? I do the presentation and we win the listing. And she's like, wow, you're so amazing. You do such a great job. And all of my agents tell me that. But what I think about is, like, I failed more times than there even had the opportunity to present.
Right.
The failures, the rejections, and the practice, like, literally, I spent more than 10,000 hours on this craft, selling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes. So at this point, it wouldn't even make sense for me not to be good. And I think when people see me and they kind of go, oh, I wish I had that, or I want to be like him, they don't realize the road it takes, the difficulty, this disappointment, the frustration, the failure, and the amount of lost deals is what makes you become so good over time.
Heartbreak.
But now I get more joy and pleasure from helping them and teaching them and helping them, get the listings and educating them, and also from helping the clientele. I truly do believe that, like, I'm the best person for the job of selling your home, and I know what's out there. And some of the people you meet, like, you have to hire me because you're gonna lose a ton of money and not get great service, right? All of our clients, we build a strong bond and a relationship with because we really care about their, the results that they get, right? For most people, buying a home or selling a home is the biggest asset they're ever going to transact, right? Because they're not selling multi-million-dollar businesses, and most people aren't transacting in real estate like every day, right? Like, as a real estate investor now, I buy and sell homes all the time, but I realize most people do it every 7 to 10 years. So for them, it's like
how long they're living in the home.
Yeah, and it matters. The result matters. So
okay, so you go out, you help one of your agents with a listing, right? You kind of want to guide them into how they can get better. Is there certain things that you lead them to? Like, is there an audiobook? Is there reading material? Or is it just, hey man, you got to jump in the fire. You got to eat some shit. You're going to mess it up. Like, what is the process for if there's a new agent coming to you or someone coming to you and saying, like, hey, I want to be an agent? Like, what would the process be with you?
So we try to educate them by taking them out with us into the field, right? So the best way to learn is, like, watch me do it. So they go on appointments with us and they watch me do, what I do. Get in the car with me and literally watch me do it. And usually they're starstruck and amazed. And then after that, I watch them do it and I support them. So I'm still going on appointments with you, but now you're saying more things if it's two of us and you're communicating more to the point of you're doing the presentation on your own or the consultation on your own. And then eventually they're off and running on their own. And a lot of them, even people that aren't with us anymore still sell, 10, 15, 20 homes a year.
Nice.
Which is, it's really nice because the average agent sells about 5 to 7 homes a year.
I have to say, I see a lot of people on my social media saying they're real estate agents, but the number of homes I see them sell that they've posted about always seems to vary between like 1 and 5 for the year. So it seems like, I don't want to say that they're not full-time agents, and maybe they are working really full-time to try to do it, but the guidance maybe they had or the way they're going about it might not be able to close the listing the way they'd like. So yeah, I can definitely see the hustle that you've put into getting to being able to be like, hey, we're closing this many houses, and the average realtor is not even close to it because we've put in that much time, much. Just, I guess the way I always kind of explain it, and the way we were talking with David was getting the FU still. Picking up the phone, making the call, and having someone who you don't know tell you to F off. and you'd be like, all right, have a good day, and just on to the next. So there's something about that for sure. So for yourself, who was the first agent that you, if you can share names, I don't know if you want to, but kind of like that you took under your wing, you guided, and you saw them make that first sale that you were like, they did it, they get it. Like, what was that moment like for you? And is that, who was that person, and how has it been, since then for other agents that you've worked with?
I mean, there were so many agents that we literally brought into the business and they had zero experience.
Right.
And watching them go from 0 to like 7 transactions. We had one agent that was on the team, like in the office, they did 0 transactions, and then we brought them on. They did 7 transactions. We had another agent that went from like 0, this young kid. We won't mention any names because some of them are still actively in the business.
Okay.
He went from like 0 to like 21 listings.
Nice.
And it's crazy just to watch that growth and development in them, because some of them are still successful today. So just that mentorship and that guidance, their success curve is lessened significantly. Like what took me 10 years, they do in like 1 year.
Nice.
Because they're able to see that guidance in, everything that we teach them, right? There's nothing like hands-on learning. And real estate is a very, very difficult business with a failure rate of like 98% or something astronomical. Okay. It's just like being a small business owner.
Right, yeah.
So like to succeed in this business is like hitting the lottery, because most people will get their license, and within 2 years, 98% won't renew their license. The next 2 years, whoever's left over, like probably half of them won't renew their license. And then if you think about it, like the top agents who really produce at a high level that you see on social media, it's literally a very small percentage of people who do this full time, and that's their business.
Right.
So it's unique, and it's neat to see people be successful in a very difficult business.
Right. So for you, at what point were you able to quit the full-time job and go real estate? Like, when did that moment happen for you?
So I think about 2013, somewhere between 2000, we started in 2009. So between 2011 and 2013, we like the first year we sold like 1 house. Then the next year we sold like 5 houses. Then we sold like 11 houses. And like eventually we started to make a decent income, and the income was actually starting to be what we're making on our other jobs, right? So we were like, hey, if we're making almost as much on our other jobs from real estate, imagine what we could do if we didn't have the other job. So I think somewhere between 2011 and 13, we left the other job, and we were, our incomes now they were still small, but after that, once we jumped in 2 feet into the ocean, the business just took off, and there was no looking back. After that, we got to a point where, like, we can't quit this business now.
Right, yeah.
It's opened up so many doors and so many opportunities for us that, we're like, we're going. This is it. We made it.
Nice. Yeah, he was telling me how for so many years it felt like, when are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? And then there was almost like this landslide effect where he's like, it took us, I think he said 7 years to make our first 100,000, and then we made 300,000, and then from there it just continued to grow. And he goes, all I could think was, where was this in the beginning? Like, that's what we were.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, once it got going, and then there was no looking back.
Nice. So for yourself now, having been in this for so long, and I would assume obviously this is what you see for yourself, indefinitely moving forward, what would you say your biggest hurdle was? And then what was your proudest moment?
Yeah. So, I mean, there were so many hurdles. I think one of the toughest things to get going into business is like, you have a job to pay the bills. Like, this business is so difficult because there is no income, there is no salary, there is no payment, right?
Right.
So although there is no ceiling to how much money you can make, there's also no floor. So the tough thing, I think, why so many people fail in this business is you could work your butt off for 3 months, for 6 months, sometimes a year, and not get anywhere.
Right.
Because it's not like, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, if I'm networking, if I'm advertising, if I'm marketing, if I'm making my calls, I still might not have the skills, because I'm developing the skills that first year to get any sales. Nobody's paying you. Nobody's checking in to see if you're doing the work, and it's filled with nothing but rejection, frustration, disappointment, like pain, and then you have to keep working. So I think that's the biggest hurdle, like mentally, to be that tough to keep going when everybody else tells you to quit. Like people were like, people have said to me, when are you going to get a real job?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And literally, like, we're getting evicted from a 1-bedroom apartment, and we look at each other like, what are we doing and why? The benefit of what we had was there was 2 of us. So we always joke, we never wanted to quit on the same day. Right? Yeah. So he would literally like come in and he'd have a crappy day, my brother David. He'd be like, we quit. I'm done. I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, this is pointless. And I'd be like, nah, let's not quit yet. I just got off the phone. I had a great conversation with this guy. Like, I think he's going to listen to me. And then, like, you know, things happen, disappointments. And the next week I'd come in and be like, dude, I'm done. I'm getting the job. I'm going to Wall Street. And he'd be like, no, not right now. Like, look at all the properties we have under agreement. And it was like, we never wanted to quit on the same day. Yeah. And sometimes if you don't have that and you just want to quit, nobody's going to pick you up. Nobody's going to be there. And you're just going to say, you know what, I'm done. This is too much. It's not even worth it.
Right. So it was always kind of a balance between you two to kind of be like, all right, man, I'm having a downtime. You say some shit that will get me through it. And then, like, when you'd come in, it, like, so it was always kind of back and forth. Now, what's it like watching your sister kind of do this now that you've experienced so much for so many years, watching her go through it and have those emotions? Like, what's that like for you?
I mean, I love watching people develop and helping them and teaching them, because I really truly believe we're taking a huge burden off of them. Because if they were doing it by themselves as a solo agent, I know the result, and they probably would not make it in their business. So it's beautiful to watch and also know that you're there for them to be able to help them and develop them, right? Like, she's killing it. She's already taken, like, she just sold a property. She just took a, $2.2 million listing. It's her 3rd one. But your first year coming in, like, I didn't have that. Like, my first full year, I probably sold 1 condo for $114,000. And after working 40 hours a week, calling everybody and their mom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I see these agents come in, join the team within months, sometimes weeks. They get properties under agreement, or they go 4 under contract, 6 under contract, or we've had people that made over 6 figures on our team, selling 20 to 24 houses on our team. Nice. And prior to us, they literally had no business. So it's amazing. Like, that's one of the things that gives me joy, is to help them learn and develop,
Right.
Developing other people and helping them grow is nice. Awesome.
Nice. So for your sister, she's kind of lucked out because she has you two who've gone through all the hurdles. So now it's more like, all right, come here, sis.
Yeah.
Let me show you how to do this.
It's still hard work, but it's nice to have the guidance. Like, you still have to work your butt off because it's a business of frustration, rejection, disappointment. But it's nice when you have somebody that's been through it, because they can tell you, like, hey, this happens, this is what we've been through.
Right. And David was mentioning to me how you 3 have always kind of been really tight. Yeah. I was asking him, because obviously I have siblings as well. And, we have days where we just want to pull our hair out because of our siblings. And he was explaining to me how he finds himself on the phone with you guys quite a bit, always talking on a daily basis, and he never really gets bored of that. So how's that for you guys? Like, being together, working together, like that type of relationship, like, how do you feel about that? And, like, how has it helped you?
I think it's amazing to be able to work with your family is a gift. And sometimes oftentimes, because I'm in the real estate business, I meet people who siblings don't talk, they hate each other, they fight over money, they fight over real estate.
Right.
But when we were super young, we lost our mother. I was 7, my sister was 11, my brother was 9. So I think because of that, we have this incredible bond, and we just truly enjoy working together. I also say, specifically with my brother, like, it's very difficult to live and work with somebody and then have financial problems. So in the beginning, we used to fight all the time. Like, we would literally be in a team meeting just screaming at each other. But once you make a little bit of money, things become easier.
Right.
And now it's really, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I love working with my siblings. It's so much fun. You get to work with people you love. And now that we don't live together, we got some little boundaries, a little space,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So Armenia is where you were, correct? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you when you came here? He was explaining to me a little bit about your dad and how that was. So when you came here, everything kind of happened with you, but with your mom. How did that all kind of play out for you guys? How did you move forward?
I mean, I think one of the reasons we're so close was because like that happened, and then our father, he really never knew how to deal with it. Right? It's like smoking and drinking and just like going out trying to figure it out. He was trying to figure it out too, you
Right.
know, at the same time. And we were just kids, so it was like raise yourself. So we went through different stages of like, you know, being bad kids, causing trouble, you know, running the streets. Everybody was doing their own different things, but you know, ultimately that developed us to be the people we are today. And also we always stayed close, so that bond I think was super helpful, you know. But in the beginning it was very difficult, you know, because we didn't know, you know, when we came here we didn't even know the language. So it was like learning the language, learning the culture, and just trying to figure everything out. It was pretty difficult, but again, like that's one of the reasons I think why we made it in the real estate business and in business in general, because we have so much resilience because we've been through so much at such an early age where like, you know, somebody doesn't buy with you, it breaks your heart for the average person. For us, it breaks it a little bit less.
Right,
you know?
right.
Or you know, pitch your heart out and do the best for a client, but they decide not to list with you. So those things, you have to have a strong mindset to be in any type of business where there's rejection and disappointment.
Right.
And this is the business that will have a lot of that.
Right, yeah. I could only imagine.
Which a lot of people also don't talk about, right? And I'm guilty of this too. On social media, we post our highlight reel. Oh, just listed. Oh,
As
just
everyone
sold.
does, yeah.
It's like, it's not like we're going in it. Oh, I just gave this client my best, and they decided to go with another person.
Right.
Just because of X or whatever, you know? You show somebody a house for a year, you're helping them out, you're going out of your way, and they decided to go with another agent literally for no reason. Or they're like, oh, I accidentally bought a house with somebody else. And they don't even realize it. Because when most people don't realize, like, when you get in the car, you show them houses for a year, you write offers, they don't buy it. You're taking time away from your family, right?
Yep.
Your business, other clients, whatever. But you're also not getting paid. You know, we're not getting reimbursed for gas. We're not getting, you know, the lunch paid for on the road. So, like, if they never buy a house, almost nobody else would do this job, right? Because
yeah.
they wouldn't go to their work for 40 hours a week, and at the end of the week, their employer will be like, well, I'm not going to pay you because this result didn't get produced. When real estate is, like, the toughest business because you only get paid to produce a result.
Right.
And that's it. And that's very difficult. You know, that makes it very difficult.
Right. I guess that's what kind of weeds out the people who can't really.
Right.
Yeah.
And you really have to care about people and try not to get jaded, you know, because no matter how much you do for people, it seems like the people you do the most for appreciate it the least, or will, for lack of a better word, screw you over.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how that works, right? Like, some of my best clients came from the internet, or like I didn't know them before real estate, and we become friends.
Right.
And they have the loyalty because they've had bad experiences and bad agents. And not everybody realizes how good you are. And they think you have to be like, that's okay, I'm still going to give you my best. You know?
Right. Now, because I relate to the non-speaking English, like when I came here, I didn't speak English, took ESL classes, that whole deal. So I definitely understand the struggle of, like, not only are you here not being able to speak the language, but now the guidance that you would normally have from your parents, that is something that you don't have like the average child would at that you know, coming to a new area. So getting involved in the wrong things, having to build that thick skin through going through the things that maybe the average person doesn't really want to go through.
Right.
And now being here, kind of looking at everything almost like, yeah, it's tough, but not as tough as I've been through.
Right.
So if I can stick it out and keep doing what I need to do, I'll get the result that I want. I think there's something to be said about, and I don't know if this is the right way of saying, but like having that like American dream in your mind when you get here, and then eating all the shit until you eventually get it, that develops you in a way where there's nothing that can be said to you that's going to keep you from moving forward.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, sometimes when kids are raised in an affluent home with a lot of support, they don't build the strength and resilience that you'll need to be successful in life. Because especially, for a man in this world, there's going to be rejection, frustration, disappointment trying to build a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have no guidance, no resources, no support, you got to be strong. And sometimes not having anybody there for you makes you develop that strong mindset. That later becomes an asset, a huge asset.
Right, yeah.
I've also seen it go the other way, where I've seen people, friends of mine, they've literally got handed everything and they can't seem to break through. It's just like crippling.
Mm-hmm.
Because anytime they see opposition, a setback, or disappointment, they're like, why would I do this, right?
Right.
Where for us, we're like, there's so much setback, there's so much disappointment, there's so many hurdles, that what do you care if somebody says F you and hangs up the phone on you?
Right.
I've been through way worse.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I used to knock door to door. I used to do sales.
We did that in the beginning of our career too.
Yeah. There's something about that I think if you make a sale at a door, it's so rewarding. Like
so difficult too.
Oh my God, insanely difficult. And I just remember when I started, they were like, you got to dress the part. Don't dress up in like jeans. So like wear the khakis, look like somebody who's, and then we would have these spiels where, so I used to sell cable door to door. And I used to, I loved it though, because everybody would go like, hey, do you need cable? Something like that. And I'd be like, hey, I'm the new manager in the area trying to make sure that clients are happy with the service that they're currently receiving. And if they haven't received good service, I'd like to ask them why and what happened.
Yeah.
And it was like, it took me forever to understand what pitch would leave the door open for me. Like, give me those additional seconds, So I always kind of appreciate people who've gone through that, like, eat shit moment, because if you don't, and I wrote this down, is for the people that you mentioned that kind of wither over time, I find that the reason they do is all the things that were difficult were solved for them at an early age. So now it's like when they get older and there's not someone there to do it for them, they almost kind of like, I don't want to do this. I don't. It turns them off.
Yeah, success is hard work and it's painful.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
I don't want to go through it. But I got a hilarious door knocking story.
Okay.
So for people watching, they're like, "Oh, I make mistakes, whatever." You're not gonna. This is gonna be. Nobody's made more mistakes than us.
Okay.
So somebody tells us to door knock, and we're so young and hungry. We're like, we'll do whatever we want. So we drive to this nice town. It was actually in Arlington. So we're like, we're gonna door knock. So we go door knock it. Like, no, F off, get off my lawn.
Yeah, a lot of those.
We're going So we knock on this lady's door, right? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about selling my house. So we're like, we got so excited. I don't even remember what we talked to her about it. We literally, this lady said, yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to do it in a few months. We talked to her. We're so happy. We're like elated. Leave, don't get her number or contact information, right? And we're just like, wow, we messed up. So we kept trying to reach back out to her. We're like trying to find, send her a card, phone number online.
Right.
We ended up finding out she sold the house with the local Century 21. And we still believe, like, till this day, she was looking for us.
Yeah.
She's like, I'll sell my house with you guys. So she called the local Century 21. Hey, those two guys came over. Somebody went there and took the listing.
Yeah, man.
And we were like, wow.
Oh yeah, those two guys. Yeah. They're not here right now, but listen.
Yeah. This is their coworker.
Yeah.
So whatever the mistakes and disappointments you think, like, as polished as you think I am today, like, we've made some bad mistakes, stupid mistakes.
But those are the best stories. Once you make it, it's so good. To be able to laugh at.
So, like, I'm sure none of my agents have done that. I tell them exactly what to say, and I go to the door with you, get their contact info. If they want to sell, get their contact info.
Don't get too excited about the conversation that you forget the most important things.
But after sometimes when you get punched in the face so much, you're like, get no, and somebody's even remotely nice to you, you're like, oh yeah, this lady's awesome.
Yeah, man.
So that was a big blunder early in our career.
Yeah, that's funny. I wonder how many people would quit right after that moment.
Oh yeah, I think one of us definitely wanted to quit. That might have been the moment we both wanted to quit. Like, I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
When we looked it up and found out she sold, that was like,
yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, that's tough.
Okay, so we got the door-to-door sales. We got having to kind of learn how to be an adult because everybody was trying to cope with the loss, including your dad, and trying to figure out how you're gonna kind of move through it. Now, at what point would you say was it real estate that took you out of those bad habits that you were leading into, or was it slowly you were leaving those bad habits because you saw promise elsewhere? Like, how did you get to the point where you kind of left those things that weren't the best for you and you started getting to develop yourself to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, so we grew up in the projects here, right? So like you see like just bad stuff, right? Like disappointment, like people hurting each other, making bad decisions, getting arrested. We have friends that got killed, stabbed, like just not good things. So as you start to age, you start to shy away from that. You're like, this life leads to this. Like you figure it out or you don't, and you end up being, in a not so good situation. And then also getting in real estate, I feel like is significantly. I love the real estate business. I'm super passionate about it, and I always call it a gateway drug as a joke because it's an opportunity to learn business. You learn sales, you learn accounting, but it's also the success you have is all about the personal development, like how much you develop yourself. And I think a lot of people don't realize that it's all about just learning and growing and developing yourself in the real estate business. So the more that you develop yourself, the more successful you become. So in turn, that really helps on the positive end, right? Like I've read more books probably than anybody I know. Every person, people go, oh, did you read this book? Yes, read it. Did you hear this audio? Yes, heard it. Every podcast. In real estate, just like, it makes you learn and it makes you grow and makes you improve because you have to get better. Right. To be successful, you have to grow you first. And that became a cycle where we got addicted to growth and success. And even though you don't see the results right away, that's one of the reasons we're successful today. Because once you get into that pattern of like, hey, I got to read books, I got to learn, and then I got to shadow people, I got to get mentors, you figure it out, and now you're like hanging out with people that are doing way more than you. Right. Most people are born into what they're born into in the sense of like in this country, I see this a lot. Like my parents own a house, they make $100,000 a year, and they drive Mercedes. That's what you're going to end up like, right? Yep. Or my parents grew up in the projects. I see struggle and financial distress, and that's what you're going to end up like, unfortunately. We hear the success stories, and we love those stories, but the truth is nobody jumps classes. Like, that's very rare. Rags to riches sounds cool online. I was like, started from the bottom, now we're here. But in reality, that's very unlikely. Most of the people that you're seeing are like, they grew up middle class and they're upper middle class. Yeah. Or they grew up lower class. So it's very difficult to start with zero and then go to $100,000. And now you get to $100,000, you're like, oh wow, all my friends here at this table make $100,000. And you go to $200,000. And now those friends are like gone, and now you got these people that make $200,000. Then you meet some people that make $300,000. You're like, wow, these people think way differently, all the way up to $1 million. And then there's like 10 million, 20 million, 30 million. And the financial aspect doesn't have much to do with it in terms of like for me, but it's like Jim Rohn once said, like, I love become a millionaire for what it'll make you to become there. So a lot of times people think it's about the money, but it's not really the money as much of who you become. And the person you become and develop, like how you get developed. And like to run $1 million business is different than to run $100,000 business. But the billionaires, aren't even like, they're not even thinking the way you do when you run it. So it's like that development is awesome. And that's what I love about the real estate business because there's so much opportunity. There's always somebody doing way better than you. Right. Always somebody doing way more than you. And they're not always 10 times smarter. They're not working 10 times harder, and they don't have 10 times more resources. So once you get around that, you could also learn to develop and grow, and then it's awesome. Like the things I have today, like, is way past where we grew up thinking was even possible. Right. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because I remember when the DJ stuff first took off for me. Yeah. Right. So like I had such ups and downs. Like we made really great money, and because we were so young, never tasted that type of money before, and it just happened to us to where like we were the biggest party in Lowell, and then we worked with some of the UMass Lowell students, and then all of a sudden we found UMass, all the students were coming to us, and you go from nothing to having money, and you do all the stupid things. I don't know about you, but like for me, it's like, oh my God, we have money. Like we wanted this so badly, and you spend it in all the ways that are not going to necessarily bring value back with it. So when you mentioned, I was in the group of 100,000, and then when I got to 200,000, 100,000 didn't seem like they were thinking the same as the 200,000. And it's interesting to see, is it people falling off, or is it you growing so much that the thought of what they're thinking, you realize is keeping them at the 100,000, and you need to move yourself forward? And not necessarily just the money aspect of it, but I guess let me say it this way. The fact that you've made the type of money you've made now, even if you were to lose it all, because you've gotten to this point, you internally, I would imagine, could feel like you could get back there. And no matter what amount of money you made or successes you had, they would always feel almost like, yeah, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to be here. This is exactly what I'm supposed to do. I've been here before. Why couldn't I do this again?
Yeah. I think the toughest thing for anybody, like the most difficult thing, is belief. And when you start out, you have to believe in yourself because nobody else will. People will tell you to quit, give up. So if you don't believe in yourself, you're never going to get there. And to your point, that's why I think people, like, if they hang out with a bunch of millionaires, like say they were millionaires, the kids will be millionaires because they just think like that and they believe it. Like, I see everybody around me making $1 million. That's normal. Just like I see everybody around me not doing anything or selling drugs. You're going to believe that you can do that, right? So whatever it is that you believe you can do, you can accomplish. And to your point, like, exactly right. Once you've made $1 million, you're like, I can make $1 million even in a completely different business. Like, I know what it takes.
Yeah.
Or let's use a smaller number, right? Like, some people have never made money. When you make your 50 for the first time, first of all, you believe like you can make 50.
Right.
And secondly, you're going to realize how little 50 grand is.
But it's wild trying to explain that to somebody, like when you say, so for me, the thing I find myself is, because I make most of my money doing what I love, like it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
So when I tell others like, hey, like do what you love and watch how the money will come, it sounds so like, you know what I mean? Like it's not tangible to the average person because they haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
And to what you're saying with the network, right? Having the network around you that thinks bigger than you. So like the reason I reached out to David, I'm just gonna be honest, right? Initially was like, man, these guys know something about fucking money that I don't know. They're fucking crushing it, getting all the bats, getting all the things. Like, like I don't know nothing about real estate, but as I'm sitting back, I'm like, should I be a realtor? Like this is, and then I start to sit there and I'm like, it looks easy, my guy. They make it look easy. It's not necessarily what's happening. So when you say network, like even for me, this moment is like, I want to hear what these guys have to say. Like they fucking know something. Like they have the hardest of hardest beginnings. Like no one can take that and say like, yo, I lost a parent. Like that right there off the bat is like, what the fuck do you, like, where are you headed? You know, like what's going on?
Nowhere good.
Right. Yeah. For most people, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you were able to not only keep your family together, right, through those moments, and then be here after having the days of wanting to quit, wanting to say fucking, being involved in the wrong things, and then forcing yourself to find the network, to find the sphere of people that were going to help you get to that next level. Like, what was that like for you, being in a room of people where you're like, oh shit, like they definitely think much larger than what I've been doing? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I think Jim Rohn has this quote, is like, you're the average of 5 people you hang around with most.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about money a little bit, but I will say I think it's true in every area of your life. Fitness, finances, marriage, right? Like you hang around with a bunch of people who cheat on their spouses and have bad relationships, that's not going to end well for you. So I truly do believe that. But specifically focused on business. 1 year we were like doing good and we were stuck at a plateau. My brother probably told you about this. It was like, I don't know what it was. It was like, we're stuck at 100 grand or whatever it was. Like, dude, we got to grow. So we're like, for every month, we're going to call an agent that's doing what we want to do, way more business than us. And they were like pretty significant amounts, like selling close to 100 homes a year, which we do today. Right. And we're going to call them. We're going to ask to shadow them and spend the whole day with them. And every month we would drive, an hour, 2 hours, and spend time with we call them mega agents, lunch with the team, watch what they do in the morning, watch what they do in the afternoon, and just be a sponge, taking notes. That year, probably we grew the most and broke through all of our plateaus. Nice. Because by virtue of shadowing those people we became the average of the 5 people we hang around with most.
Right.
Now, what's interesting is what most people don't realize is when you reach out to people, most of them want to help and give advice. Like, people are mad cool.
Really nice, yeah.
Really
oh my
nice.
God.
And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
like, what do you, like, it's funny. I have so many funny stories. Like, some people don't get back to you. That's true.
But yeah, that's
like, you
how
can't
this
take
works.
that personally. You
No.
message them and be like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do a podcast. They're like, what? Never get back to you. But you got to be persistent.
Right.
But most people will be like, what? What do you do? Yeah, come on down and hang out with me. And I'll show you the playbook and I'll tell you what I do and I'll show you. And you can watch me. You get in my car and you learn so much from that experience and you grow so much from that experience. But, like, you're not going to find that where it's comfortable and where you're at,
No,
right? Like,
definitely not.
you know, in your neighborhood with your friends, they're all making the money you make and you're doing what you do. So you have to do something that's difficult to find people that are doing or have more than you. Luckily, in our business, we have ways we can look it up.
Right.
Or, like, you went to the awards where you saw us,
Yeah,
like,
right. So,
crushing it,
yeah.
where we make everything look good. So we would reach out to those people
Mhm.
just like you did and say,
Right.
hey, like, wow, you're killing it. What are you doing? And
Right.
sometimes they share and sometimes they don't. But most of the time, people will share and they'll help you and they'll give you free advice that
Yeah.
can change your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. It's so funny you say that you call them mega agents. So, like, for me, this is what this is.
Yeah.
You know, like,
It's the same thing we did.
Yeah,
It's
for
the
me,
same
it's
thing.
like, can I just come here and, like, yo, I know you're a busy dude. I know you make a ton of sales, but just for a second, how did you do it?
How easy was that, though, to get here? How easy was that?
Honestly, David was so fucking chill that I was so surprised, like, that he even spent time with, like, I'll be honest with you. I remember thinking, like, do I approach this guy right now? He looks like he's having fun. I'm a fucking nobody. I've just been recording all day. So I went up to him and I was like, yo, man, like, you're crushing it. Like, how did you do it? And he was so open to talk. He gave me his card, everything like that. Yeah.
Easy.
Oh my God.
Boom.
So
and that's how most people are. And I think we talk ourselves out. Or say you came up to him and you had a bad experience. He's like, get out of my face, buddy. Like, why are you talking to me? Most people right there, because they haven't had, like, the adversity or the difficulties, they just give up.
Right.
But, like, for the most part, successful people will love to share with you. They'll tell you everything. They tell you everything they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they know, like, the formula for success is not simple. It's, like, different for everybody.
Right.
And it's not like I could give you my playbook. Like, we've had agents on our team, and a lot of times, like, you know, you were saying, like, should I become a realtor? We look at what people do, and we think, like, if he can do it, I can do it. Yet, even if he gave you the whole playbook, you might not be able to do it because it's so difficult and it's a process. But you could always learn something from everybody.
Right.
And that's both good and people doing worse than you bad, right? Like, learn what not to do. That's important too.
Yeah. Very much so. So what I wrote here was, so someone can give you their playbook, but unless you take the action on a day-to-day to do what they did, it won't matter. Like, I think so. Like, when I listen to you guys on your social media explaining, you know, the homes and this is what we're doing and this is what you should change or this, you know, that type of stuff. I'm like, they're giving you everything. They're literally telling you, like, when you were talking about that, the home we were talking about earlier, where you're talking about you put up the rails and, you know,
the 4-family.
The 4-family. Like, when you were talking about all that, I was like, listen to him tell you everything that he did to add value to this home right here, just doing it. And most people will look at that and be like, oh, that's cool, that's a nice house, and then just on with their way. Like, they don't, you know.
I mean, we have podcasts that tell you exactly how to get started in real estate investing. You call me. I have people literally called me on Instagram, like, met me, right?
Yeah.
We went to college together, whatever. They had 0 property, right? Like 0. Maybe 1 single family home. Helped them buy a 2-family, a 4-family, walked them through it. Now the kid has 22, 24 units.
Wow.
We have clients that have 300 units, and we get to learn from them and what they do. Like, the resources and the opportunities to learn are there, but are you going to first educate yourself and then, like you said, take the action? Because without action, there's just no result. Like, you're not going to get nowhere without the action.
Absolutely.
You have to take the action, and that's the most difficult part. And that's when you have the obstacles that you have to overcome.
Right.
You know, and most people quit because the brick walls are there, not to keep up the people, not to keep the people out, but to keep the people out who don't want it bad enough, right? Because the person that wants it bad enough, it's like boom, boom, boom. Eventually, that wall's coming down, and you're gonna get everything you want. And once you get there, you're gonna look up and say, "Whoa, this is nothing."
Yeah, absolutely.
There's another level.
Oh my God, yeah.
There's another level. There's another brick wall.
Yeah.
You know? So you gotta enjoy the process
Mm-hmm.
and really love it, because you going through this is the dream. Like, that's the process, the struggle, the disappointment, the stories, the failures. And what most people see is like that highlight reel of us getting all the bats. It's like, if you knew everything I remember the first time I wanted that bat, I'm like, to get the bat, you have to do 10 million in production. Some years we do 4 or 5 times that just to get one bat. Like, we'll do 46 million or whatever. So the first year that, like, I was sitting there and I was like, damn, I want that bat. And we were doing like 6 million. And I'm like, dude. And as little as that motivation is, it was like, dude, I'm going to get that bat this year. And you have to do 10 million in production. Boom, done. What do I got to do to do 10 million to get that bat, And you get there and you're like, screw the bat.
Yeah.
You've been to the office, there's 6 bats there just hanging in the office. And now, like, they don't mean anything,
Right.
The awards and the accolades don't mean anything. But at different stages of your life, you got to figure out what's your why, what's your motivator now. And that changes over time, right? Like, you might be financially motivated, and then you have kids and things change, right? And now you do everything for your kid or your spouse or whatever it may be. So I think your motivations and your goals and your ambitions change all the time. Right. But you always have to have goals and something you're aiming for, because if you don't, you go idle or you backslide.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. It's funny you say that, because I'd been talking about doing this vlog stuff for so long. And then only when I finally hit up David and completely fucked up the approach did it end up even started happening. It was, I was thinking I was going to hit him up and be like, hey man, because I realized this is my one theory that I've realized in terms of how I've gotten all my clients, and then how I've basically gotten anything of like meaningful to me, was I went to people and I found ways that I could bring value to them before I asked for anything at all. Yeah. It was, can I come do this? Can I come do that? Can I come do this? Because everybody's asking for something first, I feel like. Yeah. And when you can show up and be like, it's cool that you have what you have, but honestly, let me see how I can do something for you. Yeah. It seems to open up so many doors.
100%. 100%. I think that's the best strategy in business in general, right? Because, like, most people, like, if you get DMs and messages, and I get 100 of these a day, it's like they're trying to sell you something that's irrelevant to what you need. They don't even know who you are or what you're doing. It's like, what? What are you even talking about? Right. But, like, you can be like, if you want to meet with a lot of successful people, anticipate their needs, because they're busy. In the beginning, you have a lot of time but no money. When you get to a certain level of success, you have little time but a lot of money. So anticipate what that person needs to make their life easier, which is usually something to do with giving them back time. Right. And then offer that as a service, and you'll get right into the door, even if they don't answer you the first time.
Yeah. I think in sales, I forgot who said it now because I'm drawing a blank, but it was 7 attempts. Yeah. You have to contact them 7 different ways. I think it was recently I was hearing Patrick Bet-David. Yeah. He was talking about how if you don't contact them 7 different ways, then you didn't do your utmost to try to help them. Yeah. Yeah,
so true. So true. Yeah. I have this thing I always go over in the team meeting. It's like, most sales are made after the 7th contact, and it shows the percentage, like 1 contact is like 10% chance. You get up to like 7, it's like 70% chance. And most salespeople stop after the 1st or 2nd contact. Right. So if you just persist, there is the formula for success. Like, just be persistent. Stick long enough to, like, do it long enough, and then you're successful than most people, just by virtue of outlasting everybody.
Right. The consistency of getting to work every single day, just doing a little bit more.
Even if you don't know what you're doing. The first podcast we ever did, we're like, oh, look at this thing. It was a thing called Anchor. They got bought out by Spotify. Are you familiar with them? Yeah. We literally just did it in our car, and boom, and we just kept going. And now we got hundreds of episodes, and you can listen to, literally, we'll give you the playbook of how we built the business,
Right, yeah. Well, speaking of podcasts and stuff like that, and educational things that have helped, what do you find yourself listening to now, that's developing you, whether it's real estate or just family life or, just your day-to-day stuff? Like, what is it, something that you're currently reading or listening to?
So I'm always listening to podcasts, listening to books, listening to audiobooks. Right now, the audiobook that's playing in my car is like Syndication. It's like the best syndication book because I always want to do like apartment developments.
Okay.
So I'm listening to that. We read books as a team all the time. We just read The Compound Effect as a team by Darren Hardy.
Yeah, that's a good book.
I've read that probably like 2 or 3 times. For real estate, obviously The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, but that's real estate specific.
Okay.
I think one of the best personal development books that I've ever read was Think and Grow Rich. Probably read that like 5 times. And
I try to read that once a year or listen to it on audio.
Yeah,
at least.
yeah. So just, always trying to learn something. Right. A little bit here, a little bit there,
Yeah, yeah.
And then it all compounds. And probably I'm reading like 4 books that I like have read right now.
Nice. Yeah.
So anytime I hear something good, I write it down, I get the book, and then, try to read it.
Right. Yeah. What was so I had asked David what his first audio was. Do you know or do you remember what your first like audio or book was that really shifted? So
the audio, it was on a CD, believe it or not. That's how long ago I've been doing this. So
I've been there.
So the CD was Unlimited Power, The Ultimate Power or something like that by Tony Robbins.
Yeah,
it's one of his first cassette tapes. And my sister had them. Like I saw him in the car. It was a guy she was dating was like successful in business, and he like had them, and she like gave me the copy, and I was just like used to listen to it all the time. But like, the first book I would probably say is Think and Grow Rich, and the first cassettes were like Anthony Robbins.
Yeah. No,
I've read all his books.
Yeah. I've read a few of the Anthony Robbins ones. My favorite, I'll be honest with you, 50 Cent has an audiobook that I really enjoy. It's just that mindset of like his grind and going through and like how he never stopped that I love hearing that. Like there's something about hearing the grittiness of things that people go through. And I'm like, my life ain't even that bad. Like if he can go through that, like my playbook is, I got a little bit more in mind.
The other thing on top of the podcasts and the books and the audios, we used to go to seminars like crazy, like the Tony Robbins seminar, the T. Harv Eker seminar. We have a bunch of like real estate specific seminars that we would go to like all the time. Robert Kiyosaki seminar, like any seminar anybody would do, we would go. Like what can we learn? And just sit there taking notes front row. And we've been to a bunch of those as well. So I think it's like seminars, books, audiobooks, podcasts. There's so many resources out there. You also don't want to just become like a person who just learns and does nothing, because that's, I think, you're like a serial learner. It's not about reading like 50 books and doing nothing. It's about reading one book 1,000 times and executing it, right? Like there's the playbook. They told you what to do.
Right.
So I think that's key.
Right. That makes sense. It completely makes sense between understanding like there's levels to the education you have to give yourself. Like no one's coming along to like give you what you need. You have to go search for it.
You have to go find it.
Yeah. And if you're smart and you reach out to the people who you believe have the results you're looking for and go spend some time with them, more than likely you're going to pick up a few gems that are going to get you closer to the result that you're looking for.
Right.
So for you now, you've basically put yourself in the position where you went and met the people who were having the results you wanted.
Yeah.
You eventually started seeing the results.
Yeah.
You've led the team.
Yeah.
You've gotten to a place where now you're talking about the type of deals that you only dreamt of, in the beginning.
Right.
So what's the next deal like for you, right? You've done the 100,000, the 200,000, the 300,000, the $10,000, 10 million in production for the VATs and all that. So what motivates you now? What's like the next deal that you're like, oh my God, if this,
Yeah. So I think the next motivator for me is actually not the deals. It's about the people, right? So like helping people get to where we are.
Okay.
So that becomes by building out our real estate organization, building out our team. We have a bunch of businesses we do, like property management. We flip real estate. We own a couple of buildings. So helping people accomplish what we've accomplished, through the team and helping develop agents, and also doing bigger deals, like almost full circle back to when I started. I wanted to be in finance or on Wall Street, like doing apartment syndication deals, like buying $10 or $20 million deals with a group of investors and helping them make money. Because there's a lot of people that don't have the time, the resources, or the ability to get into real estate. Like I always, like on social media, you always see people give generic advice, like, go buy a house or don't buy a house. And I think everybody looks through the filter, like their own filter, but you should look at it through your own filter in the sense of like, generic advice is not going to help you change your life. But where you are in your life and what you're doing and what you want to accomplish, now look at that advice and say, does this fit into my plan, what I want to do?
Right.
And I think that's super important. And that's so for me, it's just developing people and building out my organization, our team, so that it can impact more people, more buyers, more sellers, more homeowners, more investors, as well as grow the people in the organization. Like one of our belief systems is transforming lives through real estate.
Yeah.
So accomplishing that, making that come full circle.
Right. So now, what I've picked up quite a bit as we've talked, or not quite a bit, but just noticed that you've made comments on, is you're always kind of like, it's not the money, it's the journey. You have to focus on the journey. You have to focus on the people around you. Was it always like that?
It changed all the time. It changed all the time. Like, we got our money later. Like, we didn't get fast cash. And I think I developed as a man, as a person on my journey. Like, I always joke with him, like, if we got everything we wanted now, like when we first started 15 years ago, we'd be dead or in jail,
Right.
But now it's focused around, the journey. You have to enjoy the process and also giving back, helping people, bringing them up, helping develop other people, you know what I mean? And just like, if we can help other people achieve their goals now, it doesn't really matter what we accomplish, because in a weird way, we accomplished everything we wanted to. But it's funny, when you start helping other people accomplish things, what you accomplish multiplies, right? It's like a multiplying effect, right? It's not like if you make $100,000, right, that doesn't mean it's $100,000 less for me. It's probably like together we could make 200 or 300 grand.
Right, yeah.
And those partnerships and those development opportunities, like developing people, I think is what brings me more joy today than when I first started.
Right.
Where like, I think it was Anthony Robbins that said, like, life shows up for you when you show up for life. And the more you get, like, the bigger your goals, the more you can accomplish. Meaning, like, in the beginning, I was just trying to feed myself. I was hungry. I literally didn't know what I was going to eat some nights. I'm like, I'm starving. I'm just trying to get a meal. And I joke with my brother now, like, because in real estate, there's this thing called broker tours, and you could go and there's like free food everywhere. And like, now that we have money, everybody buys us lunches, dinners, steaks, whatever. So like, the money was always there. I was just thinking about how to feed myself. So when you stop thinking about that and you're like, what can I do for these people? Or how can I help my clients? How can I help my team? How can I help my family? How can I help the world? The more you give, the more you naturally get. And most people that are going through a struggle don't realize that, because it's so hard.
Right.
When your stomach is empty in knots, or your girlfriend's leaving you, you're breaking up with a spouse, like whatever those problems are you're facing, you're like in your own little hell and you can't see past that.
Right.
But the world is so big and so abundant. And abundance is not something you just go get. It's just something you tune into. Like, it's always there, right? Like, there's millions of dollars around, commerce everywhere. There is plenty of food to eat. There's opportunities. Yet there's so many people that are starving, malnourished, have bad relationships. But all the good things are here as well, right? It's like, what frequency are you on?
Right.
What
do you think keeps people there, right? Like, outside of just the social circle that they're in?
That's probably the biggest thing right there.
Yeah.
But I think also mindset, like, maybe everything that's happened to you in your life up to this point isn't all your fault. But to get yourself out of it is 100% up to you, right? And I think most people don't realize that. Like, yes, bad things happen to good people. Yes, you may have a bad social circle. But after you're like 18, you can't blame mom, dad, or anybody else for it. It's like, pick up a book. You got the internet, Google. Take a step in the right direction, even though you don't know where that direction is. Like, there's something you can do, right? But the worst thing you could do is stay in your head and be like, woe is me. It never works out that way. You have to start changing your circle and your beliefs. And sometimes it's like, you just got to believe in you. Go pick up that book. Go grab Think and Grow Rich. Start there.
Right.
There you go. You don't know what business you want to do. You don't know what the next step is, but you're struggling mentally. You're focusing on all these bad things. Go get Think and Grow Rich. Boom. And it's just one step.
Right.
Then by the time you finish that book, you might hear another podcast, another episode, and you're like, oh, okay, here, I go here. I go here. Next thing you know, you look up 10 years later, you look back and you're like, whoa, I climbed Mount Everest.
Right.
And then you look up and you're like, wow, I didn't get nowhere. You know, so it's like, it's peaks and valleys, and everybody's peak and valley is different.
Right.
You know, and you can't really compare yourself, because there's also that adage of like, if you're at the gym, you look over to the right, like, whoa, that guy's in incredible shape. You look over to the left and you're like, wow, that person would wish that they were in my shape, right? So it's like, look at where you are and be the best that you could be every day, and then everything else will fall into place.
Right. That makes sense, man. Now, when it comes to family, I guess it seems like for the most part, everybody's doing real estate now in your family, right?
For sure.
What's the goal as a family, right? Like, you have I want to grow my team. I want others to feel the success I have. I want them to understand how to get there themselves and be able to do it without me having to hold their hand.
Yeah.
So what is it for yourself? You know, David, your sister. I know David said he has a child. I don't know.
I have a daughter. She just turned 2. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
Her, She's gonna spend all the money I make.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you this then, because I'm going through this phase. So I have a 16-year-old and I have a 7-year-old. My son's about to turn 7.
That's
so
awesome.
How do you teach your kids the lessons you've learned when they have it? Those same opportunities for experiences are not there, and you don't wish them to go through it.
Yeah.
Like, how do you...
That's probably the biggest challenge, and I don't know that I know the answer to that. I think that's the biggest challenge of life. Some people that are successful choose not to have kids because of this. Because I think struggle builds character. Character builds strength. And sometimes when we say, which every parent does, I want to give my daughter, my son, my kids, everything that I never had, you end up crippling them.
Right.
Okay, so I think the balance, and I'm reading some books on this, and there's a great book, I think it's called Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Okay.
So I think the balance is like, you want to give your kids everything and opportunities, but let them know what they have, let them fall, and let them solve problems and solutions. Like, you cannot be a helicopter parent. And I know it's not easy when you have the resources to do anything for your kid. But I actually learned this lesson a while back because of my personality with my team and growing. Like, we have admins, we have virtual assistants, we have team members and agents. And my personality is like, if you have a problem, I'm going to fix it for you, no matter who you are. Right. That's like my personality. Like, you'll be telling me, like, you're like, hey, I have this struggle. And I'm like literally fixing the problem. I'm like, I know how to fix it. Let's go. Yeah. And I think the problem is I'm crippling you. And I would do to people is I would do everything for them, and then they couldn't do nothing for themselves.
Right.
And I think that's a struggle that I'm going to be conscious about, making sure I don't make that mistake with my daughter, right? Because then what happens when daddy's not around and you make a mistake or you fall and there's a challenge, you got to be able to pick yourself up.
Right.
And I don't know exactly how to articulate this again, but it's maybe educating them, like having conversations and telling them. And it's also like letting them fall and struggle. I know a lot of people accomplish this, I think, with sports because there's failure and frustration.
Right,
Like, some people are like, when they're playing sports, everybody's a winner. It's like, no, you lost.
Right.
Now, why did you lose and what could you do better next time to win? Then you should not like the feeling of loss, right? Because that's training you for life. Disappointment. It's like, no, not everybody's a winner on this football field, basketball field, or in this fight.
Right.
And again, I don't really know the answer to that question because it's a very difficult one. How to raise kids. But I'm going through that journey now, so we'll see. Ask me in 10 years.
When your 12-year-old daughter is making more sales than you.
We'll see.
No, I mean, I think whether you would say you understand it or not, it seems like you have a grasp on, like, maybe I might have her knock doors. I'll watch her knock. Yeah. I might give her the script of like what she should say, but she's got to knock that door.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing you can do to develop kids. Throw them into sales.
Yeah. Oh my
lemonade
God.
stand.
Oh my God. I wish more people did this. So I love sales. Yeah. I absolutely love sales. I think it's the fastest way to grow thick skin and be able to take on life. Like, go do sales. Go have someone look you in your face and say no.
Yes.
And you be like, okay, thank you, have a good day. And then walk out that room and be like, oh, it's like a dagger to the heart.
Right.
And
especially when you love people and you care and you're really trying to help them. So,
Right.
yeah.
Why would they
The
say
worst
no?
thing.
They don't understand it. And then you'll have the people around you who say, why are you doing that? Like when you said,
Yeah.
people look at me and they said that. So I had someone, I won't name names because I'm still friends with them.
Yeah.
But they looked at me before my DJ career took off. They looked at me and like, you're still doing that DJ thing?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, because at that time I was making just enough to like be broke.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
That's what it is. That's the struggle.
So it's when you eat that shit and then you have people saying that to you,
Yeah.
that in that moment it's like, who am I? Who am I? Am I going to take it? Am I going to quit? Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I guess just to kind of wrap everything up, I don't want to eat too much of your time. I'm enjoying this, but I know you got shit to do, so I won't keep you. But I guess to kind of wrap up, if you were giving advice to your younger self, right? Day one, just came here, ready to, you have the desire, but not necessarily the knowledge or the understanding yet.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to yourself? What one piece of advice would you try to give to yourself that would be the
So
guide?
personally, to be successful, I would just say invest as much as you can in yourself. As much of that income and money to develop in yourself, go even harder than you did. All right, because that'll shoot up the trajectory. The second one is business. You know how they say, like, I would have told myself buy Apple stock. I would have just told myself find a way to buy as much real estate as you can. Just buy it and hold on to it as much as you can. Those two things be like 10 times more successful than I am today. Just those two things right there. If you could hold on to a bunch of real estate and develop yourself, I think those two things would be phenomenal. And as far as skill sets go, I think it's leadership. Learn how to help others and serve others and lead others, because like together it's so much more you can accomplish than you can by yourself, right? So I think those I gave you 3, I think. So.
I'll take as many as you want to give me, man. I have no problem. All right, cool. So I guess as we wrap up here, what are your social media handles? How can people find you?
Yeah.
And then, anything you want to wrap up with, if you can give us that'd be great, because I'd love to make sure I promote, you and everything that you do.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks for coming out. I appreciate doing this on a Friday night. What time is it? We're here at like 6, 7.
Yeah, 6, almost 7, yeah.
So try to outwork it, Work as hard as you can. So there's a tip. DNA-realty.com. We're still actively selling real estate. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, we're always helping people. We have a podcast. My brother does way better than me, but consistently putting out that content. It's the Modern American Dream Podcast. On social media.
And you can find that on Spotify?
Yeah, on Spotify. I think they put it on all of wherever you listen to your podcast. So
and there's a link on Instagram now too. So
yeah, thanks to you. There's a link on Instagram.
There you go.
So Spotify. My Instagram is just my last name. So my first name is Arthur, last name Martiroso, and it's you can find me that on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. It's me behind the camera doing everything. And when you message me, I'll respond. It's like, we'll talk to you. It's like we have you over here, and it's like we're humans, we're down to earth, and if you ever need help with anything, real estate related or not, just reach out. Glad to connect, happy to connect with anybody I can. And if I could help bring somebody up, there's been so many people that have helped bring us up, mentored us, gave us advice that we can never repay. And I want to do that for the world and for other people if I can.
All right. Well, Arthur, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Pleasure.
Man. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everybody, make sure you check out Arthur. I'll add all his social media and everything in the links and whatnot. But other than that, episode 2, peace.
Congrats on your second episode, bro. That's awesome.
Thanks, man. Thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, definitely. That was a good time.